good. So CPI is, oops, easy. Walk it through. So our whole purpose is to take inventions. That's a bit close. The whole purpose of CPI is to take things which are invented and then put them into the application. So we're not about inventing anything. We're about making the applications work. So things like lithium batteries, invented at Oxford University. How many companies in the UK make lithium batteries? Well, not very many. So what we're trying to do is to stop that hemorrhaging of invention overseas. So the government set us up to really develop processes, take the inventions that the smart people in this room are doing and make them actual products. So we are a technology centre, so a research and technology centre. We have partnerships and competitive relationships with the big centres. So people like the Fraunhofer, TNO, VTT. Anyone heard of the VTT? One or two nods. The VTT took a small tire company and they wanted to do things with their electronics division. They had a small sort of electronics division. And that tire company was called Nokia. I don't know if anyone's heard of Nokia. So the VTT took Nokia as a tire company and made it, you know, our electronic superpower. And that's what we're trying to do for the UK. We're still trying to find our Nokia, but it might be on the presentation later. We're part of the High Value Manufacturing Catapult, and the Catapult centres have been set up. So the High Value Manufacturing Catapult is a range of centres. I'll describe in a second. And what the Catapult centres are really doing is to bring together the actual processes and the know-how to make things move into the manufacturing area. So we're not about invention, we're about manufacturing. Okay, so quite a busy slide, and I'll have it on here. But what we're doing, these numbers we think are big, but the universities are much, much better funded in the UK than the Catapult centres. And we're trying to address that at the moment because we feel that we have more impact to the UK economy than the universities. But we need those inventions coming through to help these things out. So these are alphabetical, I guess. So Advanced Forming Centre in Sir Clyde, it's part of Sir Clyde University. Advanced Manufacturing Centre is part of Coventry University. I think it's Coventry. Ourselves, who are not a part of a university, we were set up whole different things. Manufacturing Technology Centre, again in the Midlands, looks at the automotive industry. National Competence Centre, that's aircraft wings, sailboats, that type of thing, like they're based in Bristol. The Nuclear Advanced Manufacturing Centre in Sheffield, and the Warwick Manufacturing Group, who you'll all know from the battery technology side. The Warwick Manufacturing Group are very, very good in batteries. We work with them on some battery technologies. We do the small stuff, they do all the big stuff. So my talk here is not about the grid or anything else. It's about the larger, the Internet of Things we're looking at. So here we go. So we are the biggest part of the High Value Manufacturing Centre. Each are individual, but what we've got 4 legs to the chair. And I think where I'm based is up in Sedgefield at the National Printable Electronics Centre. We've also got the old ICI works. Sometimes the Centre for Process Innovation is shortened to Centre for Pensioners of ICI. So the old folks in the audience are laughing. We've got the National Biologics Centre, that's based in Darlington, just by the railway station in Darlington. It's about 50 yards from the train station. And what it does there is it making pharmaceuticals from biological processes, so microbes that make antibiotics, that type of thing. And the National Formulation Centre, which is the latest centre to be set up, and what we're doing there is looking at formulating nanomaterials. So there's an awful lot of talks today about making small molecules active, but how do you make, you can make a couple of grams of something which is useful, but how do you make then kilos, tens of kilos? That's what this centre does here. So, and again, strapline, we're here to develop, prototype, and develop things. So rather than invent. What's it, slide 8? And I mentioned the G word. We have the National Graphene Application Centre. So we work quite closely with Manchester. We've got somebody embedded there, part-time. But what we are is about the application of graphene. We're not about looking at its structure or looking at how to make it, how to do anything. We are taking the sort of big manufacturers, even Chinese material, analysing it, making it safe. How do you handle this thing safely? How do you put it into a process which is going to be useful? How do you then embed that into composites? How do you use that for electricity? How do you take single molecules of graphene and apply them to a sensor? Big area for us, sensing. So this is what we try to do. Everyone thinks graphene will solve all the problems. One or two talks in earlier on today talking about it. But how do you make that in, 1,000 of them, tens of thousands? How do you get 2 batteries of graphene that are the same, that will work the same? That is our role. We were given £14 million to set this up. Manchester, 120 million. Yes, I am better. What we've got here is a big facility. It's got over 1,000 square meters of clean room facilities. We have got conventional printing lines as well, but what we've got here is a couple of things. You can see that, but this is glass, fully flexible. It's 80 nanometers thick. It's on a polymer substrate, and you can't see through it because there's a layer of titanium on there to actually measure how thick it is. It shouldn't be there normally because that's for barrier protection for organic photovoltaics, organic LEDs, which is a big part of our business. So the facility is, because we're part government's funded, we are open to anyone. Anyone can come in and use the facility. You've got to pay us to use it. But what we can do is to develop processes beyond that stage. So that's the plug for the company. But really, the basis of the talk today was about the innovation. Now, what is innovation compared to invention? It's taking something which has been invented and making it more practical. So it's actually looking at the practical application of the research that the universities are doing. Technology readiness levels. NASA set these things up. Technology readiness level 0 was a drawing of a man standing on the moon. Technology readiness level 10 was a photograph of a man standing on the moon. And between those two, you build up the systems, and they are quite prescribed. But normally, what you've got is lots and lots and lots of ideas, lots of research topics. People are thinking of these things all the time. Clever people think up things. Ideas are cheap. When you start to then move them through the system, so this is why the government puts a lot of money into research. We do an awful lot of research. The EPRSC is funded much better than the high value manufacturing catapult. But really, what they want to do is to get it to the innovation readiness levels. And you can see here, lots of ideas here. They become less. That didn't work, and it's not practical, or we need to build a hadron collider to manufacture these things. So things start to drop out, and they get to drop out even further. So what we go into the innovation stage, which is really where we sit, and what we try and do there is to weed out, is there a market for this? Okay, it might be the best idea ever. I had one guy who was wanting to project energy into cars along the motorway from streetlights, but he couldn't quite work out why people with pacemakers would be a bit upset about that. But these are the type of thing we need to weed out as we get here. So what we're trying to do is to get it to this level here, which is the investor readiness level. Is this an idea that's worth, few £100,000 to employ a PhD student for a year and do that one. You know, do we want to then build a plant? Do we want to build a 10 million, 100 million pounds plant on the basis of this? Because really this is into manufacturing. Prototyping, testing, market readiness is here. And that's really what we're in that middle section. And often universities say, we are industry facing, we like to work with industry, but there's a huge leap between these two. And that gap is the valley of death. And there we are. And this is a sort of a diagram on how that valley of death happens. So what you got here is the idea, TRL1. And as you invest in time, energy, equipment, the actual, it's a negative profit, so it's costing you money all the time until you get to about TRL7. And that's when you're passing through the innovation stage and you're actually putting things onto the market, and then it starts to go. So this needs a lot of investment. So you can see here, I mean, roughly every technology readiness level you move through doubles the cost. So ideas are cheap. No, they cost you nothing. I get 6 ideas every morning in the car. But really, when you start to work out, when you start to put effort in, you start to buy equipment to make these things happen. You start to buy samples of graphene. I mean, the costs go up and up and up. But actually, when you get to that stage where you've got to invest in capital equipment to make something, that cost is really there. You've got to have deep pockets, and you've got to have a good market structure. You've got to sell these things. So that's what we're looking at. So we're trying to move people through there at low costs possible. So hence why we've got the open access facilities. We've got facilities that people can access, develop their business on our assets without investing in huge amounts of prototyping equipment. We've got the prototyping equipment. People come and access us so that we can actually make 10, 20. One company we're working with is looking at 10,000 devices per week. That's prototyping scale still. Because what they want to do, that's later, is look at making 1 trillion devices per year. This is the hardware to make the Internet of Things work. It's their number, not mine. So when you get to this stage, this is when you start to make the profits. And this is where you pay this back. So hopefully this side of the graph is huge. But as you can see, it does cost you money. So the hard work, you might be thinking you're doing hard work, but it gets harder and harder as you move hands over to yourselves. Okay, another busy diagram. We've analysed what is required to take that business through from TRL 7 to 10. Now, it needs all of those. If a business comes to us and says, I've got this brilliant idea, I've invented something, I've got a patent, I've got this, I've got that. Yes, but do you have the money? Is the supply chain there? I don't know. If 2 or 3 of these are missing from your process to make your final device, that will never get to the market. This is why 90% of all SMEs fail, because 2 or more of these things are missing. Could be something completely different. You might have a brilliant lead entrepreneur, guys, go ahead, can raise money, can do everything else. But actually, if the legislation says you cannot make this because it is unsafe, you don't have a business. If the underpinning science, you understand it, but if there's no market for it, I can make white water. Wow, there's the why. But if there's no market, then that will fail. And what we do is we analyse companies. It's part of my job as a commercialisation manager, is to look at companies and say, yes, it's a good idea. Yes, you understand the science. Yes, you've got some patents. But do you have the cash? Can you invest £10 million to make this work? I'll ask my granny for a bit more. It's not going to help. So I think what we try and do that way. What we can do as well is look at, we can help people through some of the gaps. So if we identify a gap in their commercial offer, then what we can do is we can support them with that. So it might be that they need endorsement. They might need to scale up. And again, I'll come on to this one, supply chain. Is the supply chain there? And that's quite important. And that's why things do fail. So the analysis that we do tends to come out with that one. And this is pretty common. You've got the invention. You think you've done all the hard work, but actually there's big gaps in here. And as you move from the invention stage through this innovation stage, and we give people reports that tell you, actually what you're missing is innovation assets. We've got innovation assets. You can access those, and that fills in one of the gaps. Intellectual property, have you patented for what you've got? You've got to tell us. People, you might have the good people who are very clever and inventing, but do you have somebody who can move this through? So we're making 1 million devices. Somebody who's got the knowledge of manufacture rather than the knowledge of the actual technology. Do you have somebody with Six Sigma and all these things that will understand the manufacturing process as against the technology? Because people often fail not on the technology. The technology is sometimes the easiest part of the offer, and people are very excited and interested in this. But do you have a market? Do you have something else? Do you have the supply chain? Is the regulation there? We get people coming in all the time saying, I want to put OLED lights on my chocolate box. How are you going to power it? Oh, a battery. Do you really want a battery in a box of chocolates? No. I mean, weekly this happens, and major companies. So this is a sort of example of what we call the supply chain. So this is an example from our industrial biologics section. So what we've got here is we know what the reactions is. We've got some feedstocks, but the reaction here is maybe needing a bit more work. Also, at this top end, how do you build something? How do you develop something here? That's low. But really, to make a product at the very end, you need every single one of these to be 7. Otherwise, you don't really have an economic process. If you've got one gap in there, you will fail to make something. And that's really what we have to do, is to get all these up. There's no sense in working more and more at the primary process if you actually don't have somebody working on that other end of the process. Right then, okay. I'll not go through this. But really what we want to do is to look at all the parts of the business. Are you looking at them all, and are you developing? So a couple of examples that I've got is polyphotonics. This is an eye mask. It's an organic LED, fits onto the eyes when you're sleeping. Why? Because the present method of combating diabetic retinopathy is an injection in the eyeball. Once a month, each eyeball, 6 months. You could probably go through 2-3 processes. It's dangerous. It's very, very expensive. And I wouldn't like someone injecting, because into the eyeball is actually into the brain in the end. So some snake oil salesman came up and said, if we put light on the eye, because how it works is a little bit complicated, I'm not a doctor, is by stimulating the back of the eye, the sugars in the eye go down because the eye is seeing some light. It stimulates the rods and it calms it all down. This will save the NHS roughly £1 billion per year. This company cannot make enough OLEDs to supply that demand. We are now putting their supply, so they're missing the supply chain side of things. And their supply chain, OLEDs are the key. And the reason it has to be OLEDs is because it's less in the eye through the night, and you don't want to be burning a hole in your eye because the LEDs that they had were burning people's foreheads. So this snake oil will save the NHS £1 billion. Polyphotonics have made these masks. They've made dozens of them. And what they've done is to burn through £14 million worth of cash. £2 million of that was developing the device. £12 million was doing the clinical trials. So you can see it's not just about the technology, it's about sometimes, in that case, the clinical trials. So £30 million worth of kit is what he reckoned he would need to invest in his business. So on top of the £2 million that he spent, now, if CPI wasn't there, he would need to invest in his prototyping, developing materials, somewhere in the region of £30 million. We've eliminated that. We've de-risked his business completely. And this is why Polyphotonics will stay in the UK rather than move to Singapore, which big investors in China and Singapore were asking them to move out there. Okay, another case study is Pragmatic printing chips. So the piece of paper that's flying around has got a little square of plastic on it, which is one of these. And that makes things work. That is the circuitry. There's about 10,000 transistors on that, and what that will do is actually rectify that circuit and produce something. And they could do lots of different things. So this is going to do that. So we're looking at computers. You know, we've got millions of computers. We've got billions of smart devices. But we need trillions of smart objects to make the Internet of everything work. Everything you own will have an IP address at some point in the future if Pragmatic get their way. And so every time you buy a bottle of water, or even better, a bottle of whiskey, and the airport, it can actually send you to an address. It can give you other things. It can tell when that bottle's been opened, it might have been refilled and put back on somebody else's shelf. It can tell all that using the chip that's on that. I mean, that's a bit of lights flashing with a little bit of bling. So what they're trying to do, we're making, for them, they're using our processing equipment to make tens of thousands of devices per week, what are then attached. So again, £10 million saving to this man. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's incredibly bright. But he's at a stage now, we talk about different people for different jobs, he's not interested in making trillions of devices. He's interested in doing the smart stuff at the start. So he's actually going to be selling up his company and moving on. ARM have actually put in a pretty heavy investment. I don't know how much of the company they bought for 5.4 million, but ARM chips were then subsequently, because of this company, the Japanese have bought them out. So another great UK organisation lost to the Far East. Hopefully we'll keep Richard here. So there's these will be available, but this is another sort of case study. Remedies is a project we do, so we work in collaborative projects. This is what we call an AMSCI project, and what we're doing here is making every pill packet in the country smart. What batch number it is, when you've taken the pills, all these things. So we work at this scale. Now, how are those powered? We need battery, we need flexible stuff. We need electronics, which is going to be thin and cheap. That's what we're trying to do is to get them there. And we're using NFC and RFID, we use graphene, we use other things. So for Richard's problem, this was pretty obvious. We've actually got printing components we can make, but maybe not them all. The designers don't understand a lot of what is possible, so we need to inform people, so that's just raising that awareness. But really here, the integration, how do you stick something which is very flexible into something very flexible and making it stick and making it remain conductive so that it actually processes and making that thing last for 1 year, 2 years, whatever it is. So through a project, and I'll do a little animation here, there we go, is we've built, with the help of a partner company, this machine, which actually takes the integrated circuit board. So this is the equivalent of a silicon chip. If anyone's seen a silicon chip manufacturing plant, this was made in a week. Silicon chip takes a month to make a similar size thing. This can be any length. This can be 200 meters long. Whereas a silicon chip, they spin things, so the maximum size of 12 inches. And what this is doing is put it on a ribbon, which will then go on there, which will then just pop these down on a printing line, end of a printing line, like a postage stamp, as it's running through at 10 meters a minute. So what this is doing is just loading up the tape and getting the technology here, which is getting the chip to stick down, to build up the chip, and then to release that chip from its load layer. There's an awful lot of technology there to get that supply chain, that integration part of the supply chain is actually key to this process. If that wasn't there, if we didn't run this Innovate UK project, Pragmatic wouldn't have a business. So he's invested £10 million about, but really this key part of the technology is there. And so we do work with a number of companies. So the company who is making this bit of kit is selling that bit of kit to Pragmatic to put in each one of their manufacturing plants, and they've got an idea over the next 5 years to make 10 to 20 to 30 manufacturing plants making these chips. And those will be, so this is not making one. If you made a silicon chip plant to make trillions of devices, you would need to spend $6 billion for each plant, and you would need 20 plants for that. He reckons he can make a plant for $10 million, but then spread that manufacturing globally. And this is one of their aims. So it goes on, but that's it. So moving up the scale is expensive, and the whole purpose of CPI is to reduce that. So we've got lots of equipment. Look at our website. We have got. I think it's finished. But really, have a look at the website, and what you can do there is to see the range of equipment that's available for anyone in the UK. We don't keep people out. Okay.
Well, we've got just a couple of minutes for Q&A. So if anybody's got any comments.
Did anyone get the lights to light up on the phones? Yeah? Yeah.
Sorry, just a quick question. David Lanahan from National Grid. My role in the company is very much related to innovation, so your presentation is absolutely brilliant, music to my ears. But I wanted to ask you your opinion on who's the best person to lead an innovation up the TRL levels. Is it the person who first thinks of the idea, or some specialist who's able to guide that innovation forward, or someone else?
There's different people in that chain. So obviously there's going to be somebody with a bright idea at the start who has the technology. Moving it through the chain might take 2 or 3 people with different skill sets. So it's not always the person. I mean, at the moment, for example, there's Richard Price there. He has taken it to TRL 7. He isn't interested in making things. He's interested in developing the process. He's now inventing other things to bring through. So he's not really interested in taking it to the production side. So he's stepping back. He couldn't do it without a fairly big team who are doing other parts of that. So improving the manufacturing, improving the reliability of the process, improving some aspects of the process. So it's never one. Now things are so complicated, it's never one person.
Any other questions or
comments? The kind of standard time frame for innovation that gets mentioned is typically about 7 years, and then you have people like Tesla and Apple who are coming along and reducing that and are kind of citing an innovation cycle of about 4 years now. I just wondered, if you had any comments around that.
It depends how much money you've got.
Right.
And I think, but also, Tesla, one good example, they've now taken off patent their battery technology. I think people can use it because they found they can't make money at it. They've spent billions of dollars building plant, and now they can't run it. Hence why they moved out of the automotive side and want to put boxes in your house. So if you've got a lot of money, sometimes it's not good because you might spend that unwisely, and I think probably Tesla have. But yeah, Google and Apple have got lots of cash. We in the UK have got very little cash. The Chinese have got lots of money as well and doing things. I mean, I put this slide up in front of the research director at Samsung, and he laughed. He said, "Well, this is you've over the last 10 years, you spent what my department spent last year." on just its staff, never mind any of the equipment. So it's about scale. Hence why Samsung have got 3D televisions and we don't.